Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. I'm your host. Leah is coming here in a second. I literally had our adopted grandma on the phone just 1 second ago. And I almost, because she's a hoot, she had a computer question. Just I was like, you know what? I was going to tell her, I'm getting ready to go live. You're going to go live with me. And everybody can have, she just needed to know where to plug in the USB she's going to go get a new mouse. This is a big deal. So I just finally told her I'm getting ready to go live, and I was about to tell her, do you want to go live with me? She actually probably really would have enjoyed talking to you guys. She really is a hoot. So today is the 18th of March, 2018. And
Patty's Day if you didn't see us on Friday.
Happy St. Patty's Day if you didn't see us on Friday. Yeah, I even actually still did my makeup green again today because I liked it when I did it yesterday. Green.
It's green.
It's green.
She's like a booger. Oh, no, not many people heard it. Don't worry about it.
She called me a booger.
Mm-mm.
She said it's like a booger. Not all boogers are green, by the way. Just saying.
She's like a sinus infection.
I'm like a sinus infection. My eye makeup is like a sinus infection per Leah. Well, it matches your sinus infection shirt that is also green.
Nope, totally different green.
Okay, so Tommy went to Speaker's Corner today, and she's in. And he delivered Martin Sellner's speech, which was actually a really good speech. And so we're not going to play the entire speech for you. Really what I want to do is give you a feel of the crowd and what it was like. And then afterwards, Tommy went to like a local pub and he did kind of like a 4-minute follow-up, which you can kind of really feel his excitement and kind of drain. Like he's really drained. Like it really took a lot out of him, you can imagine.
Yeah. And then, nobody thought they were going to let him speak. And I think that
he didn't. Yeah.
Was a very pivotal and defining moment. However, one of these guys from the, and I can't know everybody, right?
Come on, Leah.
From the Pagoda movement. Oops, that's not what I want. That's not what I want either. Now you know my
first of all
Yahoo email.
I had it all closed down so that it would be when I played the thing.
Well, I just wanted to show this guy. Pediga founder Lutz Bachmann banned from the UK after officials find Speaker's Corner speech in his baggage. His name is Lutz Bachmann. He's been prevented from entering Britain to deliver a speech at Speaker's Corner, partly on the grounds that he knows Martin Sellner. He had planned on delivering a speech written by the Generation Identity leader who was recently detained. And Bachmann also shared a picture of a document which claims is from the officials who stopped him, which asserts that Pediga is involved in the promotion and incitement of racial hatred and division of communities, and notes that by your own admission during interview, you have known Sellner well for many years.
So they wouldn't let him in.
Because he knew Sellner.
And because he had a copy of a speech or Sellner's speech for Speaker's Corner.
I guess another speech by Sellner.
To be delivered at...
The speech was discovered in a baggage search.
And why were they searching his baggage? I mean, is this standard procedure to search the baggage of everyone trying to enter into the UK now?
Yeah, the speech was discovered during a baggage search, which you have stated you are intending to give to deliver to the general public. The speech relates to your organization, Pediga, which is devoted to combating the threat of Islam. The activities of this organization have been involved in the promotion of incitement of racial hatred and the division of communities.
You know what? Here's the thing. I have to put a stop to this right now. This whole inciting of racial hatred. Who freaking cares? If somebody hates another race, and by the way, Muslims are not a race. Let's establish that. Who cares? Who cares if you incite racial hatred? I don't care if somebody comes in and incites white hatred. I really don't care. You are allowed to hate whoever you want, okay?
I wonder if they'd ban Louis Farrakhan.
I hate globalists, and I'm going to incite globalist hatred for the rest of my life, all right? I mean, seriously, I will incite hatred to evil people, and I'm going to continue to do that. Who cares? Who cares if you incite racial hatred? That cannot be a reason to not allow somebody into your country.
I want to beg a technicality. The Bible says to love your enemies. So
I will incite hatred for the globalists for sure.
Anyways, furthermore, this speech appears to have been written and is believed should have been delivered by Martin Sellner, who is a member of an Austrian group which also promotes racial hatred and works against community cohesion. I didn't know that was part of freedom of speech. I mean, I go downtown, there's a lot of people, a lot of gang members that should just be arrested because they go against community cohesion.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing now. They've created a whole thing. So, we're gonna take you to Tommy, and then right after that, I'm gonna take you to the only sane elite in your country, Lord Pearson. Lord Pearson.
Did I spell it right?
Pearson, the son of a pear. Yes, I believe you did.
All right, so let's, without further ado.
It takes two, baby.
What's
Pear.
that?
Pear.
But that's not how you would spell
Nope.
that kind of pear.
Nope.
That's P-A-I-R.
Nope.
All right, so Britt Baza went today, and he is telling us in the chat right now that the whole thing passed off without incident, which I am very, very glad to hear. I have to tell you
Go figure, all these people who
were inciting this hatred. They weren't there to commit crimes and hurt people, you know? All right, so let's go straight to, it's kind of dark in here. Maybe it just depends on what your background is.
It's gonna
Try
be
the
white.
resistance chicks background.
It's going to be white for a while.
Hang on. Let me just see.
I got a lot.
I'm still working. See, wait a minute. I don't know what's up with our camera. Like, it adjusts the lighting according to what's behind us.
Wow, that's like a
smart, stupid camera. All right, so let me pull this up. Okay, I already have it up. Let's go scene 5. I'm going to make this big, and I'm going to have the earplugs in.
Now, if you can't hear it, let us know. Because
well, I won't be able to see it because I'm going to make it big. You'll have to pull up the chat in order to see what they're saying.
Nope.
Yeah.
Because in this one moment, I have the good background.
I know, but still.
Shall I hold this one? I don't know where our live stream's gone because it went a bit chaotic when we got in here. So I've gone live on here. What's that? Who? That's the Muslim congregation there.
Look at him, animal! Hold your ground! Hold it!
Wearing balaclavas. They're wearing balaclavas at Speaker's Corner in London.
I don't know what a balaclava is.
Go the other way! All right, boys!
Shut up, son!
Oh, this
It's an easier idea than actually finishing it. Now I'll do it so that people online hear the speech. I'm going to forget everything that's going on now, and I'm going to read Martin Sellner's speech. The speech that our government wanted to stop. The speech. Let's get going. I assume you are all lovers of free speech because you have come to Speaker's Corner.
Go on, mate. Go on. I'll put it everywhere.
All right. Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Right. This is from Martin Sellner. Dear friends, dear Britons, and dear lovers of free speech. I assume you are all lovers of free speech because you have come to Speaker's Corner. You might not understand all the fuss happening today around this speech. Honestly, I don't understand it either. My name is Martin Sellner. I am an Austrian patriot, and at the moment I am sitting in a detention cell in Colnbrook Bypass near Heathrow. My smartphone was taken and my girlfriend Brittany was separated from me. I currently don't know where she is. We will be deported on Sunday. 5 minutes ago, they unlocked our cells and my fellow inmates are gathering in the prison wing. They are mostly illegals and Eastern European criminals. What brought me into this situation? What was my crime? My crime was that I wanted to be here with you, to speak at Speaker's Corner. But let's start at the beginning. I was invited by UKIP to present my movement at an event last autumn. I represent Generation Identity, a patriotic European youth movement that is raising awareness for mass immigration and Islamisation. Far left people call us right wing. People who want to shut down free speech call us fascist. And folks who hate their own culture call us racist. In reality, we're a group of young patriots fed up with the system, the mainstream press and the lying politicians. We use peaceful activism to make our voices heard. And contrary to our friends on the radical left, who are probably swarming you right now, we never wear masks. From Paris to Rome, from Vienna to London, we fight peacefully, but without compromise for our freedom, our homeland and our identity. This is what I wanted to speak about in autumn, but the conference was cancelled due to threats from the radical left. The venue would not take the risk, so they rescheduled it for March. This time keeping the venue secret. But again, the terror of the left prevailed and the venue dropped out. But this time I didn't want them to win. It was about principles. And also our flights were booked. My last refuge was Speaker's Corner. I remembered my mother telling me about that special place when I was a child. It seemed almost magical to me. A place where everyone, without admission, could just stand on a box and start to speak to those who wanted to listen. I've always loved this tradition of Speaker's Corner, which seemed very British to me. But I have come only to see that this tradition, the tradition of freedom of speech in the UK, is dead. I should be speaking in a neat, warm conference room right now. And you should be sitting comfortable chairs. Instead, I'm in my cell and you're on the streets in a standoff with the enemies of freedom of speech. This is very telling. Today, there is a war going on. It's a war for our freedom of speech. This war is being sought on the streets by you. Days of your childhood, I ask you, and I know that the force is still in you. With your Brexit vote, you stunned the world. The will for the life of the British nation is not broken. Initially, I asked if freedom of speech is dead in the UK. You, every one of you who came today, is a living sign that the traditions of the UK are not dead. You are the lively tradition of your nation, saving its face before history. People of the UK, remember who you are. Remember your glorious past. You are the sons and daughters of knights, of kings, of explorers, philosophers and artists. Who is the sovereign in this country? It's you, the people. You, the silent and invisible majority who said no during Brexit. You can say no again. No to Islamisation. No to mass immigration. Yes! For our cause. If they did, if you were hearing them now, I tell you, go further on that winning streak. Don't be afraid, because we have an ally that is unbeatable. We have the truth. The battle, our battle for freedom of speech has just begun. And Speaker's Corner. And Speaker's Corner.
All right, yeah. All right, so you guys, I'm going to drop the link for this specific video in the description and in the chat. But before I do that, I want to show you the update that he did in the pub after the fact. No, I do not want to try that for right now. So
speak up.
He's just like, you can just feel it.
That was that's a victory. Today's a victory. And what I'd like to start off by saying is a massive thank you. A thank you to every single person. Some people travel from out of England to come there today. Some people, I've been speaking to people all week who have been travelling. So I want to say a personal thank you, because whatever I'm saying and whatever I was doing, and the fight for free speech wouldn't have happened if I'd walked in there on my own. It wouldn't have had the same effect. So to the thousands of people who turned out today, a personal thank you from me to you. And a thank you to every single one of you who watched it live. If you shared this video, then a thank you as well. Because we can have all the intentions in the world of what we want to do and how we want to do it without people's support. It will never happen. So everyone played their part. I didn't expect to be able to get into Speaker's Corner. I really didn't expect it to be able to get in. I had a group of lads around me to keep me protected in case anyone is an opportunity like that. Someone could take the opportunity to try and make a name for themselves. So yeah, from the minute we got there, from the minute we left the hotel when we arrived at the park, just mayhem actually. I was going to try and think of how to explain it. It was just mayhem. It was mayhem to see so many people electrified as well. You're seeing people screaming, you know, it was a good feeling, it was an immense feeling. And the fact that, again, as I said in my speech, to the Home Office officials, to the people who made the decision to imprison a young girl from America for 3 days and then deport her, to put their lives in danger and stick them in prison to attempt to curtail free speech. Watch the videos today, understand what happened today, and understand you failed. And the more you do make decisions like this, the more you'll fail. You have just electrified people's spirit and fight for our history as a nation for free speech. You've done that through your decisions. So your attempt, when you attempt to take something from people, even if they didn't realise they had it, they want to fight for it. And that's what you've done.
If they realised they didn't have it, they want to fight for it.
It was good. It was a good day, and even this morning they still hadn't realised that. Even this morning they were arresting people at the airport from Germany, preventing them from coming in. So yeah, I want to say that Martin Sellner's speech that would have been given to 100 people in a park has now been beamed across the world and will continue to be watched across the world. Thank you. Diet Coke as well.
Ratio.
Because I was so out of breath. It was overwhelming, wasn't it? It was overwhelming. It was like, I'm absolutely drained. It was good. It was good. How many people we got watching?
I love how he asks.
4,000. It's good. 24,000 people watching it live. We were walking in that park. 45,000.
45,000 people watching his channel live.
It's good that it's good as well. What I understand is that before I got to Speaker's Corner, the people were all openly and passionately debating
45,000 people captive.
Now,
Maybe at least 4 or 5 million.
I feel quite bad. So many people come to that park today to see me, to listen to me, and I didn't get a chance to spend time with them or meet them because I had to get in and get out. I was worried about my security as well, especially with recent events. So I'm going to be back in Speaker's Corner next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
And who knows, maybe every Sunday. Babe, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, man. To my wife.
His wife.
I won't be here on Sundays. Sorry, darling. But your roast dinner ain't as good as my mum's anyway. No, so my mum's doing roast dinner on Sunday, so I'm going to have to take some time out and go to that. But no, seriously, next Sunday, same again.
His mom's cooking on
Same
Sunday.
again. I sort of feel a bit, because it was so tiring, wasn't it? But yeah, next Sunday.
Tell me you can't say that, buddy.
Don't. That was like
oh my
losing
gosh,
some
you
points
can't.
there.
Yeah, no.
All right,
absolutely not.
so we had a lot of comments there, you guys.
So I'm gonna throw the link to both of those in the description and in the chat here in a second. And I don't have to wear these. I can't even hear. It's like being in a barrel. So that you guys can share them because it needs to go far and wide.
All right, Britt Baza was there. He took some videos. He's going to send them to us. He's back home now, he says. Zoe says he'll speak again next Sunday. Scotty says cops in England are cowards. They don't stand for anything good. They don't even carry guns. But I like what somebody else said. It's not the cops themselves. It's those who are above them. And that is absolutely true. Worth Look says free speech massively under attack. And it says on Shawnee Show says on one of the live feeds earlier on this speech, the chat was so crazy it was going faster than the credits on an American telly show. Sean ever the boom ching. Passionate man, very inspiring. So he says, Baza, I am jealous. I would have wanted to see the whole thing. I'm sure somebody's got the entire thing, but
well, there was this other link that I had before. Worth a Look sent me a lot of these from Titans TV. They had like a YouTube channel that they were able to get an exclusive up close. There were only a few of the people like videographers that were able to be up front, and they were one of them. So I'm actually going to put that link in the description as well.
A really good question. Why didn't he have a megaphone? The part I think the the thing about Speaker's Corner, I don't think you're allowed to have one there.
Right.
It makes sense. Britt says, I only saw Antifa getting off the tube, but he changed, one Antifa getting off the tube, but he changed his mind when he realized the numbers, and he put his bandana away. So thanks, Britt Baza, for that update.
That is fantastic.
So a lot of you were getting your notifications.
You know what I've been meaning to do is go to the Facebook Live. I don't mean to be lagging on that. It's just a little bit.
And InfoWars have live streamed all of it, and we're actually there recording it.
Hang on, though. Who said that? Because I couldn't find it.
Baza.
I was trying to find it at the time, and I couldn't find it afterwards. I can't find that footage anywhere. So if you guys have that, email it to me.
And Kelly tells me that her husband took her shooting last night, and her son got a new gun. All right, so after that, what I want you to see, and sorry, I have 3 different. Here's my thing.
So Mitch Delaney on Facebook Live says YouTube has deleted Tommy's video, and now Facebook has banned all comments on his Facebook version. Freedom of speech is gone. Not to mention how they cut his feed in and out, and also stopped his post-speech attempt at YouTube Live. Tommy needs to call for a mass walkout worldwide and down to state capitals. Thousands of people at that speech and online, yet they were scared of a few hundred politicians and police officers who I'm sure are not going to do anything if 100,000 people march and demand that they've had enough of the censorship.
Wow. Here's the thing, guys. It's like God is whittling us down to see who's really standing. He does this in the Bible all the time, right? Gideon's army was whittled down.
Yep.
And when you're standing and you're still doing this, sorry, his eyes are closed. When you're still doing this, when you're not getting paid, when you're still doing this, when they're taking your videos down, in Tommy's case, if you're still doing this when they put you in prison, like, he's a martyr, dude. Like, he has reached level of, I love my country more than I love my life. And so I
think his family gets kudos as well.
He is going to hook up with Alex Jones. He left the Rebel because the Rebel wouldn't allow him to do live streaming on
They
the
wouldn't
street.
have allowed him to do this.
Right.
I'm certain of that.
I think probably for legal reasons and liability reasons, they didn't
Right.
want to be held responsible
Right.
because he's walking a knife's edge. All of you Christians out there and Bible believers, or even just believing in God, just when you say your prayers at night, especially in the UK, say your prayers for Tommy. Just ask God this. Say, God, surround Tommy with your angels and keep him safe. Go ahead.
It looks like
Paul Joseph Watson
was there.
Okay, so Alex Jones twisted his arm behind his back because he does not want to get involved in any of this stuff. Why? Because from what I understand, his girlfriend doesn't want him to get injured. And
Valid.
And Paul Joseph Watson, he'll stay behind the screen, he'll stay behind the TV, but the police are more likely to arrest you on the ground.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they won't come, but they're
Right.
more likely to come after you in your home if you've been on the ground.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Paul is smart. Okay? Paul and Tommy are 2 different people on 2 different sides with 2 different personalities.
On the same side. But
I meant 2 different. They're on the same side, but like
their personality spectrum, the way they go after things is different.
this is Tommy. I'm gonna take him on. And Paul's like, let's think this through first.
Can we
right?
talk about this?
Exactly. So
He just fights in a different way, and
Right.
you need each different type. And Tommy's ready to be arrested, and I have to tell you guys something. If you don't have it within you and you aren't prepared to go to prison for this thing, then you do need to do your battle wherever God has called you to do it.
Right.
And that's where PJW is at. Jada Franson, she was ready. Okay, Paul Golding, he is ready. He's ready to die for this cause. He's ready to be killed by Muslims in prison, which could happen. All right?
I blame the elites for Paul and Jada going into prison. I don't honestly know exactly what happened there. I guess they possibly got into a physical altercation. However, how can you... The fact that Brits haven't gotten into a physical altercation with the recent Telford grooming gang scandal, when you see the acid attacks, when you hear what they're saying, the fact that you guys are so self-controlled shows just what great people you are. But Lord Pearson says he expects a civil war out of this, and that's what they really want. So don't give in to them. Don't give in to violence. Do what Tommy did in Italy, and do your best to walk away. But if somebody is coming behind you and looks like it's going to punch you, go ahead and defend yourself. Yeah. But you've got to be in a place of defense. Do not go on the offense. Now,
hang on, though. I want to address, and
I've said now, I'm going to play this video like 10 times.
All right, so what? And God love him. I really appreciate So What's channel. If you guys aren't subscribed to it, you need to be. He gives a German perspective that is hilarious and very factual. We've got
a lot of German news today. A lot.
But he says one is a coward, and I disagree about PJW being a coward, even though So What says that he talked bad about Britain First. Here's the thing. Even I don't agree with everything that Britain First does. Right. I just don't. It's a fact. I want to defend their right to say it, but I don't agree with the way that they do things. Mm-hmm. Okay? I just don't. I don't think it's cowardly to use wisdom in a situation where wisdom says, if I go into this, my voice may be censored for good. I could be killed. I could be injured. I could be thrown into prison. Okay? Not everybody is called to be a martyr. It's like that girl at Columbine. Okay, the killer puts a gun to her head and says, do you declare that Jesus Christ is the Lord, or something like that? And she says, yes, bang, she shot dead. I would have said no, because I know that inside that's not true, but I would have saved my life. You understand? It's totally different. Sometimes you have to use wisdom above just like throwing yourself out there, you know, where something bad could happen to you. That's not always the smartest way to go about it. Just because you have the right intentions, which Britain First absolutely unequivocally does. They have a good heart. They have the right intentions. They aren't always going about it the right way. It's just that simple. But we still back and support them. Okay. But that doesn't make somebody that's using wisdom that says, you know what? There are lots of times where we have an opportunity to go somewhere, right? And we don't go. We went to the Ohio Carry rally for our rights because the Lord said, this is going to be safe. Go ahead and go. It's that simple.
Right.
Otherwise, we don't just throw ourselves into situations for no reason. All right, Tommy.
Lord Pearson, actually.
Lord Pearson, I mean.
Political issues surrounding the religion. He is a live peer who entered the UK Parliament's House of Lords for his anti-corruption stance against the insurance industry. He's done extensive work campaigning and fundraising for people with learning difficulties, and he's the co-founder of a pro-free trade think tank. Following the exposure of another Rotherham-scale grooming gang scandal, he took the opportunity to once again question the government on what they intend to do about the problem of Muslim grooming gangs.
We seem to be looking at millions of rapes of white and Sikh girls by Muslim men, only 222 of whom have been convicted since 2005. So, my lords, will the government ask our Muslim leaders whether the perpetrators can claim that their behaviour is sanctioned in the Quran, and to issue a fatwa against it?
Fatwa.
Can we talk about Islam without being accused of hate crime?
I was in the House of Lords to witness the political establishment's response to his questions. So I've sat down afterwards with him to talk in more detail about what needs to be done to tackle the problems Islamic immigration has brought to the UK. So Lord Pearson, you're one of the only voices in the House of Lords who I've ever seen talk about Islam. Why do you think so few people are talking about the Islamisation of Britain?
Well, remember, the House of Lords is a very Europhile place, but of course it's also a very Islamophile place. The people in the House of Lords are completely out of touch with what I call real people. They call them ordinary people. But with real people and the sort of lives they have to lead, in this instance, because of the encroachment of...
Isn't it nice how they do actually call you guys ordinary people? You're the ordinary people. They're your lords.
It's very condescending.
Islam on our culture and civilization.
I've got a video for you, and I can never remember the guy's name. Nazid, whatever. He's the guy from the BBC, that the good Muslim, who talks about these things. He gives us some numbers. He's going to give us some numbers. And Tommy was suspended from Twitter for saying 90% of grooming gang perpetrators were
Muslim. It's
However,
84%.
It's 84, 85%.
Tommy, get it right.
He was off by 5 or 6%. 5 or 6%. However, it's really important to look at these numbers, and he even tells us. Here's the thing: if a Muslim tells us that there are sects of Muslim teachers who say that it's okay to have sex with a girl as long as her father agrees to it,
no matter her age,
9, 11, prepubescent. That's what he's telling us. So if I repeat what a Muslim is telling me, I am Islamophobic. So weird.
And they're out of touch with it. We are, on the whole, a very tolerant nation and all the rest of it. And they see the vast majority of Muslims as nice, peaceful people at the moment. And they find it very hard to think that they can have anything to do with the Islamists and the grooming gang people and all the rest of it. So they just shut their minds off. And anyone who tries to talk about it is immediately accused of hate crime.
That's what I want to ask you next. When you've tried to raise the issue, what sort of reaction have you had?
Well, the reaction is very negative. It's even been said that I shouldn't be allowed to ask these questions in the House of Lords, that I'm endangering the security of the Palace of Westminster by asking these questions, because I've asked lots over the years and things. And, sorry,
they've said by you asking questions,
yeah,
simply about Islam, you're endangering the security of the palace.
Yeah, that has been said.
So because of that, you should not ask questions.
Well, that's sort of in the background, but the main criticism is that this is hate crime. As soon as you can say what you like about Christianity, you can say what you like about the virgin birth, the miracles, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and nobody gives a damn, quite frankly.
He's so right. You can go around. The reason Lauren Southern wasn't allowed in was because she went to Luton. I told you guys this before. Passed out some pamphlets that said Muhammad is gay because she had seen some pamphlets that said Jesus was gay. It's okay to say Jesus was gay because that's like cool and hip. But it is.
But there's actually more factual foundation about Muhammad being gay.
You certainly don't get the bishops jumping up and down, or anyone. You can say what you like about the Hindu gods, you can say, but as soon as you touch Islam and you begin to wonder whether Muhammad was such a peaceful person, a character, peace be upon him, and as soon as you begin to look into the history of the thing a bit, all hell breaks loose, and you're completely ostracized, and everyone's very angry with you. Which is what I want to do. I want the whole of this thing to start. We've got to start talking about Islam. Perhaps, for instance, the 3 absolute basic tenets of Islam, which are difficult words, so I hope people aren't too bored, but one of them is abrogation or cancellation, whereby the later violent verses of the Quran, the verses of the sword, cancel the earlier ones. The peaceful ones, yeah, of which there are very few. But anyway, and then the next one, I think, would be that people have got to understand, or at least let's talk about it. I just want to talk about it. I'm not an expert. Would be taqiyya, which is the example of the Prophet Muhammad after he moved to Medina in 622 from Mecca, and he gradually expanded his religion and became so powerful that in the end he could say to his multicultural, multi-faith hosts in Medina, look, either you join my religion, or you go into exile, or I'll allow some of you to pay a tax, but I'm going to kill the rest of you if you don't join. And he killed 600 Jews in one afternoon. And Islam then went on to conquer most of the known world. And the Crusades were clearly, historically, a response to 400 years of Muslim aggression. And yet we're told that this is a religion of peace. I don't know, is it? But let's talk about it.
So do you think it's a lack of knowledge on behalf of people within the establishment?
I really, really would like it if people would stop using the Crusades as like an example of like how Christianity is bad. Because when somebody comes in and tries to invade your house, and then you go and you attack them because they're trying to invade your house, it ain't your fault.
I have to tell you, the history that we were taught about the Crusades, at least in America, is completely skewed.
It's so weird that everybody like brings up the Crusades. Even Obama's bringing up the Crusades, and the only reason he does it is because of Taqiyya. Because you're allowed to lie to your enemy. Because here's the thing about these Islamists, and this could get me thrown off YouTube, is that
it will eventually.
They literally spin it so that what they're guilty of, they accuse. This is what the devil does. Okay, so the devil's behind it. And this is freedom of religion, by the way, because as a Christian, I can tell you that Muhammad was not of God. He was not sent by God, and he was sent by the devil. Ooh, guess what? I can say it. I'm a Christian. Christians can say that. That's part of our religion.
No, you can't. You're going to get kicked off of YouTube.
There's only one true God. And he's actually, Lord Pearson's going to talk about this. Can you say there's only one true God? And I guess in Britain, you might not be able to say that anymore. So insane. But you can say Allah's the one true God. Because they have this little piece that like, ooh, we have Jesus in our book, and ooh, we have the Virgin Mary in our book. No, Jack. You're messing. That's the devil messing with your head. But anyways, it's just the devil, and he does the same thing over and over again. The devil is the accuser of the brethren. What somebody accuses you of is what they're guilty of. So we see it with this, and as Anne-Marie Waters said in a speech running up to the Speaker Corner speech, she's like, the religion that shall not be named. We could do that. We could start saying that.
Oh.
And then you might not be kicked off. The religion that shall not be named. The person that shall not be named.
Like Voldemort?
Exactly like that. And it was really powerful in her speech just to say that on the corner there. So,
what do you guys think? Do you think we should do that?
I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it for a little bit.
I don't have a problem trying that.
The religion that shall not be named. The prophet that shall not be named.
Can we add something to it, though? Because that's not strong enough for me. Can we have the religion that's too low to be named?
Or do you think they're aware of the problem, but they don't know how to deal with it?
It is so obvious to them that Islam must be a religion of peace that they are not prepared to look at whether it might not be, or whether at least the jihadists and the terrorists and the grooming gang people can use what is in the Quran, which is why I asked for a conference on the interpretation of the Quran. It is all there in black and white, and how do we get rid of it? How do we say it's not there? Well, we have to talk about it, and they have to say that. The Muslims have to set up a great conference.
He makes such a great point. If raping women is not in the Quran, or sanctioned by the Quran, if these grooming gang things are not in the Quran, if acid attacks and beheadings and throwing Jews off the buildings and stuff like that, if that's not from the religion that shall not be named.
But they all do agree that treating your wife as a second-class citizen is in the religion that shall not be named.
If those things are not, then I think it's great to have a sit down with the rest of the people who are part of the religion that shall not be named to let them know this is not part of our religion.
Hang on, I love our show so much, and I love Sean equally as well, and this is what makes our show fun. Sean says, Tracy is about to cook us some bangers and mash. I know it's nothing to do with the subject. I'm just so happy I have to shout about it. Did we cook that? Mm-hmm. Oh, it was really
And they could, our Muslim leaders can say, this grooming gang, we put a fatwa, anyone who does this grooming gang stuff is cast out of Islam. It's about the only thing these Islamists fear, is being cast out of Islam.
Why do you think, bearing in mind all the grooming gang scandals which you spoke about today, when we see reports that show complete police failures, government failures, social service failures, why do you think none of those people have been brought to justice? None of the people who facilitated and accommodated these rapes?
Because they would say that they avoided being guilty of racism. Racism is this blanket word which is chucked around, and as soon as you're accused of being a racist, those police people and the people who should, the police and the social workers, who now should be prosecuted, which is in my question, will all have believed that they couldn't do anything about this because of the sensitivities of the Muslim community. And if they did go into it, they would be accused of racism. And racism is idiotic in this context, because Islam is in every race on the planet.
Thank you, Lord
So it
Pearson.
isn't racism, whatever else it is.
Just this week, we've seen two journalists. We've seen an American journalist detained and held for days and deported because she was coming to interview me. We've seen a Canadian journalist who's just been refused entry and deported today as well. Where do you see this where do you see the government response and the establishment response? Where do you see this heading?
Well, unless we can somehow start being allowed to talk about Islam, that's the first step. If we can talk about it and understand it, then we might get somewhere with persuading the people who treat you as they do, and I think it will get worse. And you have been a naughty boy, Tommy, in the past. You have quite often been a naughty boy, and so in a way, then it's sort of made easier for them to demonize you. But anyone who read your book, Enemy of the State, I think would take a different view of it.
I love that you read
But
Tommy's
they don't
book.
bother to do that. Of course they don't. It's a sort of blanket establishment position that isn't going to look at anything smelly down there. That's what it is.
What do you think it's going to take for the people in Westminster to wake up to what's happening?
Well, they won't wake up until it's too late, because I think we're on our way to riots. I would have thought we're on with the frustration which is growing from principally the white working class, who've had to put up with all the discrimination against them, the schools, the housing lists, etc. I don't know, the police not arresting a Muslim man in a beard not on a handheld thing while driving a car. I mean, masses of it. They have to put up with that. But these people, we don't have to. In our gilded chamber, and we couldn't give a damn. The Archbishop of Canterbury did actually say, we will never deal with Islamism and come with Islamism unless we understand Islam. He said it is very unhelpful if we go on pretending that ISIS has nothing to do with Islam. And he also said it's time.
It's very unhelpful, and I believe
it's a lie.
It was. Sorry, I get so many names in my head. Rex Tillerson or McMaster, or both of them, said that that ISIS was perverting this great religion. But to say that ISIS has nothing, the Islamic State has nothing to do with the religion that shall not be named, is absolutely ludicrous.
Right.
Time for our religious leaders to stand up and be counted. Now, he said that the September before last, and it's got nowhere. I don't think he's going to say it again.
Is it a lonely voice? If I'm honest, you're the only person I've seen within the political spectrum that wants to talk about Islam.
No, I think I'm the only member of either House of Parliament since I think it was 1923, when Churchill talked about Mohammedans in a fairly objective fashion. Okay.
Why do you think that is?
Because what I've been telling you, because they just cannot bring themselves to dare to look at what this thing might really be.
Because they won't know what to do.
They can't bring themselves to dare to look at what this thing might really be.
Right.
They wouldn't know what to do with it now. And
If they accept the reality of what we...
Well, yes, I mean, they'd have to do all sorts of things. I think first of all, you'd have to begin to learn what's going on in our mosques.
These are really good, non-judgmental ways that you can allow somebody to practice their religion by keeping them in check. Now, we know that 2, 3, how many thousand people in the UK alone have been arrested because of something that they said online. Because they said it in English.
Right.
So he's going to propose that all speech in mosques be in English, available in English. So y'all can know what they're saying.
Right.
Why not? In a world that we live in, when you know for a fact that these hate speech preachers are coming into these mosques, and it only leaks out through other people from the religion that shall not be named, what they're saying in there.
Exactly.
Or somebody takes a video in there.
Yeah.
Why
and
aren't
it still
there,
has to be translated.
Why aren't there more people taking videos? Why aren't there more people translating
Because
these
they're
things?
scared.
The sermons, I mean, I personally would require every sermon to be made in English so that we could understand it. I would think we should be told,
That's not
we should be
stopping
able to
the
find out
sermon.
what is going on in our madrasas. But we can't. Because I asked a Christian of the government the other day, and they admitted, no, we don't even really know how many madrasas there are. We certainly don't know what's going on in them.
Don't know what's going on in the madrasas, don't know what's going on inside the mosque, but you spend all day, every day, trolling
Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Really?
Because here's the thing. They see the religion that shall not be named as only lighting up when provoked.
Yeah.
So they know they can't get rid of the religion that shall not be named, so they're trying to stop the matches from lighting the fire instead of trying to clear out some of the dead brush.
And what's more, we couldn't care less.
Last weekend, when a couple tried to fly into the UK, we had Martin Selner and Brittany Pettibone. We're seeing this growing and growing and growing. Anyone who has a political opinion or voices their concerns of Islam seem to be getting the full weight of the state. We've just seen, again, 2 days ago, we've seen Lauren Southern, who's a Canadian journalist, and the reason they gave her why she's now banned from the UK was the installation of blasphemy laws, medieval blasphemy laws, because she criticises Islam. Where do you see that taking us?
Well, it's taking us down the road to fascism, clearly. Because it's one of the hallmarks of fascism. And I mean, we've been doing this in the Lords too. I mean, it seems that the Crown Prosecution Service has abrogated to itself powers of arrest under hate crime, which are not actually supported in statute. And Lord Vincent, who's a colleague of mine, he raised this in an oral question in the Lords on the 5th of December last year, and the government was, shilly-shallying around and avoiding the question. So I got up and simply said, could they be absolutely precise? Could they assure us that a Christian,
this is really important,
a Christian preacher who was preaching the divinity of Christ and as superior to any other religion, and that Jesus was the only Son of the one true God, I said, if someone gets on there, can the minister guarantee that he won't be arrested for hate crime? She refused to answer the question.
Because she can't, because under the new hate crime laws, if someone feels offended.
My question today could well be hate crime outside, but I speak under privilege in the laws. They can't arrest me for what I said in there. They can arrest me for what I say here. And I don't care if they do. It should, they don't seem to. In Islam, we're dealing with something vibrant and alive. Just look at the mosques on a Friday. Look at Church of England on a Sunday. I mean, come on. We should see that this thing's coming. It means business.
I agree. Scary times ahead. Dark times ahead.
He made such an amazing point. It is going to be time for Christians who are willing to make a stand like the great men and women before you. Do you realize that England was the beating heart of Christianity? Besides Constantinople, the next seedbed of great men and women of faith was England. And St. Paddy's Day, Ireland, you had St. Patrick's bringing those Celts and those
I read that he was of Italian descent.
Well, he brought it to Ireland, and it brought Christianity there. And
Abominable Snowman says some of the British lords are worthy of their title.
One.
I want to call it Horatio, who's probably not watching just right now, but later when you do watch this. Do you guys remember when we got Dr. Charles sent some excellent emails, and he sent the pearls and whatnot. And
the biggest box of chocolates I've ever seen.
I think I ate them all. And Horatio, and so we were trying to decide if Dr. Charles was actually everything that he said that he was, pretty much a lord and a man of privilege. And Horatio came back and said, he very well could be. We have these type of chaps in the United Kingdom. However, I doubt very seriously that one of them is watching your show. Thank you, Horatio. Well, this dude read Tommy's book. Okay. You know what I'm saying?
And this dude, he realizes the answer. Okay? Such a key there. He said, look at the mosques on Friday.
Yep.
And look at the churches on Sunday. Okay? Now, my point that I was getting to was that the beating heart of Christianity was in England. Okay? Was in Great Britain. The heart that beat. You're great. Do you realize I love England? Why? Because our laws, our Declaration of Independence was pretty much plagiarized from John Locke. Do you know who John Locke was? John Locke was, he was sickly, but he was a great mind.
He was a doctor.
And he wrote the first and second treatise of government, one refuting the divine right of kings. And the second treatise of government talked about nature and natural law and God's and the divine
the rights
divine
that we are
giving
giving just by being born.
And those rights nobody can take away. They're given to you by God.
Right.
So Thomas Jefferson read that. You've got
you can just read it, man. These dudes, our founding fathers, studied John Locke like it was the Bible.
The idea of natural law. William Blackstone, Sir Edward Coke, these great minds, and then we go to the men and women who are willing to sacrifice their lives for conscience because they loved Jesus so much. You have the Pilgrims, you have the Separatists, you have the Puritans, right? These were people who wanted to purify, who wanted to get out all of the corporatism, you could say, in the church and the perversion, and just get to Jesus and loving one another, right? John Wesley, the Wesley family, right? 17 kids. Right, born in England.
He was the last one, man.
The Methodist Church
in
found
birth control.
There'd be no John Wesley,
Mm-hmm.
right? John Bunyan. John Bunyan
Dude.
was a prisoner of conscience in an English prison because he didn't follow the line on the Church of England, and he wrote, in my opinion,
the greatest literary work
besides the Bible.
Well, the Bible isn't even just...
But you know what I mean.
I consider literary fiction.
Okay.
It's not. But yeah, the greatest literary work aside from the Bible.
And
it sold more copies than it has sold more copies than any other book besides
Pilgrim's
the Bible.
Progress.
That is homework for you guys. You can get it on YouTube and you can listen to it.
It's really fantastic.
That is, you have to listen to. If you guys have never read or listened to Pilgrim's Progress, before you do anything else that we suggest to you, that is what you have to do.
So what happened? What happened to England? And we talk about this. We talk about this all the time. It's almost like your reserves were lost. The great spiritualists left for America. They're here. Their descendants are here. That's why we have a bastion of Christianity here.
Yeah.
When that kind of split happened, there wasn't another uprising of great Christians.
Right.
So somebody's got to preach the gospel in England and set people on fire with the gospel. And I guarantee you, you won't need a law. You won't need riots. You won't need marches, really, even. You can. If you begin to really believe in Jesus Christ and the power that you have, read the Bible. I was reading in Daniel. Daniel prophesied that Jesus would come and destroy the enemy and set up his spiritual kingdom on the earth. You have all the power you need to overthrow and fight back against any religion that shall not be named.
Did Jesus come and overthrow the kingdom of the devil with a sword?
No.
No, he came and did it through the power of the Holy Spirit and God. And so when we're talking about Paul Joseph Watson and we're talking about people that may be using wisdom and not stepping out there, it could be because God is reserving them for something better, for something different, and you don't know. You can't judge somebody else, okay, in that sort of situation.
As I was talking with Justin, because he's had some dreams about, things like this, and this is a spiritual battle. When you put on your spiritual goggles and you begin to look at the religion that shall not be named as demonic, because that's anything that takes you away from Jesus Christ as King of Kings and Lord of Lords is demonic. And it's Antichrist.
I would like to add to this, the coward's way out sometimes, and not always, sometimes is to, instead of getting close to God and building up your spiritual armor and your spiritual warfare, the Bible says to put on the armor of God. Instead of doing that, you do just go out blindly and just let your anger take over. Okay.
Right.
So it is more difficult. And I'm not saying that's what PJW is doing. Okay. The dude curses like a sailor, but there are other people out there. That's what we do every day. God has not called us to pick up a sword or go to a bunch of rallies yet. He may, I don't know, but we don't do it for right now because God hasn't told us to do that. So you have to use spiritual wisdom far before you let your emotions let you run wild, and then you're cut down. Davy Crockett, always be sure you're right and then go ahead. You always have to be sure that God has asked you to do something before you step out, or you will end up trampled.
I believe that God's hand is on Tommy Robinson right now, and he has the anointing on him.
I agree.
Now, we're going to move on to some other headline news.
That interview with Lord Pearson was so fantastic.
It's hard to move on from that. I've watched it.
I hadn't seen it yet. Leah had seen it.
It was just so, it soothes the soul to hear truth, right? Because we hear so many lies spun, and we know they're lies, and it's like fingers on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
But you could just sit down and listen and talk with him all day long. And the fact that he is not prideful or arrogant, he calls y'all regular people, normal. He calls you normal people.
Right.
You know, this is the kind of guy that God can use, and he knows what the answer is. He's looking for religious leaders to rise up, and I would say rise up, just right in amongst yourselves. Bring up a Tommy Robinson and just start be the religious voice of Tommy Robinson. Just go preach the gospel on Speaker's Corner.
Right.
If you go to jail for preaching the gospel that Jesus Christ is the only Son of God, I have to tell you, God will be proud of you, and God will take care of you, and God will be there for you, right?
I used to be terrified as a kid because I always knew that God had called us for something big. I just didn't know what it was. But inside I was scared, like, God, I know I'm going to have to go to jail one day for you, and I don't want to have to go to jail. I am prepared fully to go to jail or worse for the word of God, for the truth. But I do believe that is not God's will. God's will is not to create a martyr out of everyone.
Right. Exactly. And remember, like with the Pilgrims, they were in jail. They got out of jail, and they founded this country. They helped the 500-year plan. All right. So
what's next?
Moving on. YouTube bans the Daily Mail for violating community guidelines. They're back up, but I wanted you to be known that they've done that. In the UK, this guy, you guys probably know who he is. I didn't know who he was.
Ross Kemp.
He is he's a journalist. He was a famous guy.
This famous soap star, but over there the soaps aren't the same as our soaps.
Right. Now he does like some documentaries, and he's been to Syria and stuff. And he said, Ross Kemp, I had to wear the same body armor I wore in Syria for the documentary on multicultural Birmingham.
Wow.
Soap star turned investigative journalist Ross Kemp has said he had to wear the same body armor he wore in Syria while filming in Birmingham, England. The 53-year-old, famous in Britain for his role as EastEnders hardman Grant Mitchell, was filming with armed response and counter-terrorism units attached to the West Midlands Police, the British Transport Police, the Northumberland Police, and yada yada yada. Kemp. He's done a couple of documentaries, war in Afghanistan, post-apartheid South Africa, other extreme locations. Since he stepped away from the soap opera, he says, I am making a documentary about our armed response units and counter-terrorist units, armed police across the UK, and asking, do we have enough to meet the threat that is now posed, not only by terrorists, but also by the increase in the use of handguns by drug gangs? And just, isn't it wonderful that you have an increase in handguns by people who shouldn't have them illegally? Piers Morgan.
They said to use the East London accent. I'm not sure what that is. Is that more
I
like
can't.
short?
I only have one. Michelle kind of can do it.
Birmingham, one of British great industrial cities, during the country's heyday, and undergone large-scale immigration in recent decades.
Australian.
I can't. It's too hard.
Particularly
all the
from the
different
Islamic
British
world.
accents are too difficult. It's easy to do posh. That's it.
Even the French media last year has reported it has been a haven for Islamic radicals.
He says it's like that somewhat.
All right, so the air ambulance is called to more stabbings and shootings than road accidents in Sadiq Khan's London. Now, okay. You thought the South by Southwest was a concert just because you didn't know what it was. It's actually a tech conference. Obama has been there. Female Obama's been there.
I didn't say that on air. You didn't have to call me out.
Sorry.
Man. Sounds like a concert, right?
And on your dime, Sadiq Khan went there to tell the tech companies that along with Germany, England, because he's the mayor of London. He doesn't rule your country, by the way.
He thinks
he's daggum king of England. Somebody needs to boot this man. He read some nasty comments towards him online and told tech companies that if you don't stop hate speech online, we are going to fine you 50 million euros, just like in Germany, or more. That's what he did.
You know what? I think this is a good thing. You know why? Because if they're threatening to fine these companies, it would cost them too much money to censor everyone, right?
I can't stop.
So they will be begging, before you know it, to be counted as a utility, right? So they can't be held liable.
That's true.
For the things that people are saying. So this could turn around for our benefit. You know what? We're a utility. No more censoring. We don't know. We know how.
For the first time in the 30-year history of air helicopter support for injuries, there's more stabbings and shootings than road traffic. And I don't believe it's because people are better drivers.
No.
New release figures reveal that airborne trauma specialists and paramedics treated some 560 shootings and stabbing victims over the course of the year, compared with 533 cyclists, drivers, passengers, and pedestrians who've been involved in road traffic. Now, Piers Morgan, remember, when people don't have guns, they have knives, and they will cause great harm with them.
Even though you're not allowed to carry them there, I think that more people do than you think.
Dr. Gareth Graya, an air ambulance service, said it's not unusual for our teams to perform open chest surgery for stab wounds twice in a single day. Now, Piers Morgan, I would love for you to cover this. I love that you're talking to Piers here. He bothers me.
I know.
And so if I talk to him, I get it out of my system.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. I would love for him to talk about this open chest surgery for stab wounds twice a day. I think that would add up to a lot more Parklands than we have, right?
True.
And all he wants to do is talk about our guns. He's so weird. He said this would be unheard of a few years back. So maybe you can't ban the Knife Association, right? He tried to offer the public some reassurance by telling them his team's world-leading treatments mean that they can give these stabbing and shooting victims and other patients we treat the best possible chance for survival. Meanwhile, apologists for City Mayor Sadiq Khan, who have overseen a massive rise in crime and terror attacks, say, there's nothing you can do about it. And
so today, speaking of these knife attacks and stuff, Justin Hughes had sent me an article. Manchester machete attack leaves man with life-changing injuries. A man suffered life-changing injuries after a sickening machete attack in a Manchester bar. Police say a man walked past a busy bar and started shouting abuse at people inside. A man asked him to calm down, but then the attacker was handed a machete by a friend and proceeded to strike the victim on the hand. Detective Inspector Mark Davis said this man should be enjoying the rest of his well-earned weekend. Instead, he's in hospital being treated for injuries that will change his life.
They probably chopped his hand
The way
off.
the offender pulled the machete out and brutally struck this innocent man without hesitation is chilling. And we will do everything we can to find the person responsible. It's scary how knife crime is spreading across the UK. It highlights the loss of law and order in Britain. And that's from the West Monster. Patriot Gallery. Hang on, wait. We haven't seen you in so long.
I'm not here.
Yes, you are.
This is temporary. I'm just starting to figure this out. I mean, I might be really backwards and stupid. But I heard that Obama, this is something I've heard that somebody else said. I'm not saying this. Somebody else said this. So what says this? So what says, I wouldn't dare say this, but somebody else might say this. But, you gotta cover yourself. Is, make sure you don't get in trouble, right? I heard that somebody did say this, that Obama's really upset with Trump because Obama was getting like $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 for each immigrant he brought into the country. That's where all the human trafficking comes in. Trump stops that immigration. Obama doesn't get money anymore. And then Obama is really, really, really tied to Saudi Arabia. Well, they have billions, so they buy people. They can pay people. So if you're overseas, remember Theresa May, Corbett, your police officers, your judges, they are getting paid for these people. Like, that's what slavery is. Everybody keeps talking about this human trafficking. I always thought they were talking about this, like gang sex trafficking. No, this is like the migrants
they're bringing people in, right?
But they're paying your officials. Somebody has to get into the black books. Find those black books and see how much they are paid. Then you can arrest your officials, arrest your police officers, arrest your judges, arrest mayors. All these people in your government are in on this. They're into selling people,
right,
and buying people. And the reason you don't have justice, because they get paid for the slavery of these Muslims.
Right, absolutely.
We're calling it the religion that shall not be named.
Mom, get with the times. The religion that shall not be named. Okay.
There you go.
Just kidding.
Thank
All right,
you.
I want to go through some of these headlines a little bit quickly because I want to get over to Germany and some other videos. But Justice Minister, UK prison system preparing for an influx of returning jihadis must instill British values. I don't know how you plan on doing that without the gospel of Jesus Christ. which is now pretty much illegal in the UK.
Right.
Revealing a lot of work is being done by authorities to prepare for an influx of jihadis from the Middle East. And the Justice Secretary said the prison system needs an incentive system of rewarding understanding of society's values. There is a likelihood that we are going to see people returning from the Middle East in the months ahead, and many of them are going to become our problem within the prison system. Now, here's the thing. No, baby. You don't let in Brittany Pettibone wants to interview Tommy Robinson. You don't let in Martin Sellner. You don't let in Lauren Southern, little blonde-headed chick from Canada. But you're ready for these people.
Mm-hmm.
You people are insane. Like, not you people. These people are literally, they have lost their minds. The Bible says, as they refuse to retain God in their knowledge, he gave them over to a reprobate mind. This is insane, not to allow in freedom of speech, people, and to expect and be ready for the blow of jihadi terrorists. This is not, they have accepted that there will be jihadis in the UK, and that they're part and parcel of who they are. There's a likelihood that we are going to see people returning from the Middle East in the months ahead, and many of them are going to become a problem. We need to make sure there's a proper approach to them. No. They just don't come in. They don't come in. If you can refuse them under the Terrorist Act and stuff like that, you can refuse these people too. We need to have a prison system that encourages that and places significant demands on people in these circumstances to understand society's values and norms and what we are in a country, and just basically trying to tell people to be nice. We're going to bring these people back from Syria who are hardened murderers, and we're going to tell them in Britain we are nice to people. That ain't going to work, buddy. All right. Child sex crimes soar by 30% in City Cons London as public anger rises over the grooming scandals.
You know what makes me really mad is that it's already been said, but I believe that it's going to keep coming out more and more, and Lord Pearson kind of hinted at this as well, is that when you see these crime rates rise, what they will start to attribute it to is the fact that people are speaking out. Well, if you just weren't speaking out and angering these people of the religion that shall not be named, then this wouldn't be happening. So you wouldn't have as many child sex crimes. You wouldn't have as many terrorist incidents. It's because you are inviting this, because you're calling them out. So when they're saying you're inciting racial and, in this sense, religious hatred, what they're actually saying is you can't say those things because then the religion that shall not be named will come and hurt us. So we have to punish you from saying it rather than actually punishing the people that would be committing the crime because they are innocent.
All right, so this is is he Labor MP? He is
Labor's Steve
no,
McCabe.
So I think he's
different guy.
He might be a Tory MP.
Anyway,
You're
not talking about that guy.
No, I'm talking about Ranil Jayawardene, an MP, was branded a disgrace by left liberal politicians during a bid to stop a chain migration bill, with one white left-winger questioning how he could dare to oppose it given his background. It was Steve McCabe, an MP for Birmingham, accused the Tory of attempting a spiteful, rambling filibuster and asserted that many will wonder how someone from his background can have developed such views. Now, that is as racist as you can get. Racist as you can get. So Raheem says, this is a Labour MP basically stating that a Conservative MP who happens to be brown is not acting brown enough and should think and act more like a brown person. Mr. Jayawardene, a Brexit supporter, now here he is with a bunch of beautiful white people who are obviously not racist, who have elected him to be their representative in the parliament.
Okay.
Because it goes to show that it's not about racism, it's about values. And if a man happens to hold their values, it doesn't matter what color they are, people will elect you.
True.
If you hold to our values, we will love you. We accept you. We want you to, even as these obviously people are saying, lead us. Dear Lord.
So Chris says something. He says, Michelle, don't self-censor. They win if you do. I have to disagree with that, and here's why. We watched that movie, a stupid movie where the guy wouldn't step on the thing and curse Jesus or whatever,
Right.
and they were going to punish him. Listen, it doesn't matter. If I change, y'all know what I'm talking about. Anybody that's going to watch this knows what I'm talking about, and it is highly probable that
there's YouTube algorithms.
well, you saw how the closed captions work.
Right.
It's everything on here is read and goes into a system digitally. People aren't watching the videos. They literally just these key phrases.
Right.
When we say Islam or Muslim or something like that,
There we
it
go
pops up in their algorithm.
The religion that shall not be named.
Y'all people know what we mean when we say the religion that shall not be named, so it doesn't hurt anything at all. I'm not losing at all. What I would lose, and what we possibly will lose, and what we already have lost via the Jordan Peterson video on Mass Faith 3, is our right to get the word out. So I don't care. If they want to play a game, they can play a game. I'm going to win anyway.
I'll just play the game back.
I'll play the game back. It doesn't bother me.
We've been playing their game for a year.
But y'all people need to subscribe to Chris's channel, because I watched your rec video today. It was awesome.
Well, I didn't watch you guys' show right now. But I was thinking about the conversation. I was thinking, oh my gosh, that makes public school human trafficking. If you pay somebody for people, you pay $10,000 per person. That is human trafficking. I always thought public school was slavery. You're making a slave of that child. That child doesn't have a choice. And even parents don't have a choice because they force you in taxation to pay for these kids. Right. So this is human trafficking. Public school, and when they tax you for people.
Right.
That is human trafficking. That is slavery.
In America, each kid has a certain.
And when you go there, that's how they treat these kids. They brainwash them in whatever they believe. It doesn't matter what the child believes. It doesn't matter what the parents believe. If it transvites a teacher, the transvite teacher is going to force its religion on your children. Same with gay people. Who's ever in power is going to force what they believe and their religious belief on your student, whether it's feminism. Teachers for years have forced feminism, which is a religion, what they believe on these children, and that's slavery, a slavery of the mind. And your body's a slave too. You don't have a choice to go home. They'll send the police after your parents or whatever.
I have nightmares of being stuck back in school.
But I was saying that Broward County, they had a law about money they didn't want to arrest everybody and put people in jail who were minorities or of a different color, weren't white. So they gave special treatment to people who were not white for government money. When you do something with people for money, that is slavery. It's human trafficking. Yeah, I keep wondering, Q keeps saying human trafficking. Other people say human trafficking. So I think sex slavery and the children and that awful, awful, terrible thing, what they do, they kidnap children, they kill them, and satanic ritual abuse. But this is even more obvious right in front of our faces, but we've been blinded to it.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, she's so right, though, because they are creating little soldiers that grow up to be adult soldiers. Okay,
well,
we're seeing it with the social justice warriors.
Latest walkout here in America, where they suspended kids for not joining the walkout. Right. They had teachers behind it. I just wanted to give you a few more points on this guy. What he did was he did not back the family reunion bill on this chain migration. He says, look what's happened in Germany. They got 1 million migrants. We can't sustain it. And so he didn't back chain migration, and that's what threw him under the bus. Now, one more video here in the UK, and then we're going to move on to some things in France and Hungary. Yeah, but this video I want to play. I know it's what you're gonna want to watch this. This is Quilliam Majid Nawaz, and this was the guy, Michelle, I was trying to explain to you who he was the other day, seemingly, and I can't ever remember his name. And you're okay. And they're going to talk about Telford.
Unchecked to prey on girls as young as 11, raping, drugging, beating, trafficking, and potentially even murdering them in the process.
Sky News,
What's
by the
happened
way,
in
not
Telford
BBC.
could be the worst case of a paedophile gang involved in widespread child abuse the country has ever seen. But as I read the names of those convicted, something struck me. In Telford, they included Azir Ali Mahmoud, Mubarak Ali, and Adel Ali.
British
in a
names.
similar case in Rotherham,
She's not real
Razwan
happy about this, by the way.
Adil Hussein, and Zafran Ramzan were among the guilty. To Rochdale now. Mohammed Amin, Abdul Aziz and Mohammed Sajid, among others, were convicted. And now to Oxford, where it was Anjam Dogar, Kamir Jamil and Zishan Ahmed ending up behind bars. Now, a very broad reckoning of the guilty shows around 80% are men of Pakistani and Bangladeshi origin. Well, a couple of observations then. Why do they appear to view white girls as objects to be traded and even disposed of? And what is their community doing about it?
Nick Ferrari is awesome.
Nick, this is a tragedy that's been going on up and down the country, and unfortunately, the police and local councils have been complicit in covering up this scandal.
Well said.
Yeah.
Time and time again, they have found that British, Pakistani and Bangladeshi South Asian Muslim men like me have been involved in grooming underage white girls and targeting them.
You can see she is obviously a Muslim or something. She takes this really personally. She says, this is awful, we want to talk about it. But then she's like, but what about white pedophiles? What about white pedophiles? Here's the thing.
They're not committing these crimes in mass.
Well, it's two different types of pedophilia. They're going to talk about it.
Okay.
They're going to talk about, this isn't pedophilia. This is a mindset of raping girls in a sex slavery thing. Mm-hmm. And then there are people who are literally attracted to children. These men aren't attracted to children. They're not pedophiles per se. They're people who are want to abuse women, and the easiest ones to get are the younger ones.
Right.
In what I would describe as racially motivated sexual assault. And for fear of racism, the local politicians for fear of losing votes, and the police for fear of being sacked by those local politicians, have been hiding this situation.
We will call out perversion and molestation,
pedophilia,
wherever it is at. Hillsong in Australia. His dad is a pedophile, and they hid it. All the time especially in the beginning, we don't cover it again because we covered it. Irish Catholic priest, Australian Catholic priest. There's a guy in Guam that finally lost his bishopess or whatever. We call it out because there's nothing in, and he's going to talk about this. There's nothing in the Bible that not
nowhere.
But if Muhammad did marry Aisha and have relations with her at 11. That's a thing they need to discuss.
And of course, then it led to a national inquiry. We know that because the conclusions of the national inquiry were the same. I'm going to read to you something because Telford could well be worse than what happened in Rotherham and Rochdale. And yet, still, despite that, we have the superintendent for Telford and Wrecking, Tom Harding, saying the following. He said that what I would say is sexual offending across Telford and Wrecking is virtually identically proportionate to the breakdown of society, so it's not one particular section over others. Forgive the language, the French, but this is total BS, because he's confusing two types of sexual offences. And we as Quilliam looked into this, and I'm going to come to the stats in a second.
I know you've done a lot of it, and you've done a lot of broadcasting. You're a real pillar in this area, I have to say. Salute what you've done.
Thank you. Type 1 is the grooming of underage white girls, or any girl generally is type 1 as a category, the grooming of underage girls by gangs of men. Now, in type 1, where the grooming gangs are involved, it was found in our research that we found, and we'll put this up on the screen for you, that 84% of those involved in type 1, which is gang grooming of underage girls, were, what it says there, South Asian. To be specific, they were Pakistani and Bangladeshi Muslims, right?
And the fact that you can literally specify a country of origin, that's what makes it incredibly disturbing. This woman likes, but look at the white pedophiles are all white or whatever. Okay, no, pedophilia actually is across all races. It's pretty disgusting. But you do need to look at that like on a different show. And they've tried to bring it out. Like, right. They really do. People do want to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Type 2, which is, I hate to use the phrase ordinary paedophilia, what we normally understand by the word paedophilia, is representative of wider society. So one statistic found it was about 87% in type 2, which was paedophiles, 87% were white. Another found 100% were white. But of course, that's not surprising because the vast majority of the country is white. What's interesting is the disproportionate figure of 84% hailing from my background. Why that's interesting is because roughly only 2% of the country are Pakistani and Bangladeshi Muslim men who are responsible for 84% of collective grooming of underage white girls.
That statistic is really similar to when you're looking at homosexual pedophilia here in the United States. When you look at male-on-male pedophilia committed by homosexuals, it is that disproportionate, because homosexuals only comprise of, I think, it's probably more than it used to be, but roughly 3 to 8%. I don't even think it's 8. I think it's still 3% of the population, and yet they are committing 75% of male-on-male pedophilia.
And that's another issue where it's like homophobic to say that there might be something in a homosexual, the homosexual community that allows for this, and it needs to be discussed and brought to the forefront.
So it's equally as censored. You can't talk about it.
But Milo does, and he says it's well known that you have grooming men in homosexuality who, and you're not supposed to look at every homosexual and say they're a pedophile by any means.
Right.
But you do need to see that a lot of people become homosexuals because they were molested, and you have to look at those numbers and talk about that. And in doing so, you can help children surround themselves with armor and things like that. But
I respect that. I must get other people involved. A fantastic body of work. Carol, I saw you nodding as I was going through the list.
You know what particularly sickens me on this is that, in all of these places that you've mentioned, the police, the social workers, the care workers all knew what was going on. They couldn't pretend that they didn't. This has been going on since the 90s. And yet they chose, because of what you're talking about, Majid, because the biggest crime is to be accused of discrimination against ethnic minorities, they chose to throw these young girls to the wolves. And I want to show you a bit of film here from the MP of Telford.
What has happened in the past is it's not been clear both to local authority or to the police that what is being reported is a crime. And I think procedures have improved. I think practices are now different, but there are still young people coming forward who feel that their voices are not being heard.
You see, that to me is absolute nonsense, because these girls have gone and made their voices heard for decades and no one was listening. That is a really disingenuous comment, because these girls had it's not just a case of somebody grooming someone online. Some of these girls, as young as 11, were dragged into filthy, dirty houses and gang raped by men. They were perfectly aware that was a crime.
And compare and contrast with another Labour MP in Rochdale or Rotherham who made the point and was promptly sacked from the front bench for talking the sort of terms that Majid has. We must get others involved.
But just let's see over Telford. 2 of the whistleblowers who tried to protect these girls were fired.
All right.
So Lucy Allen, the MP we just heard from, she has called for a public inquiry, and it seems that there will now be one. And it's important to say she has been calling for an inquiry since 2016. So
there has been one.
Before we were all talking about this, she was talking about the true scale of the abuse in Telford.
But there's been
Let's just hear from Afua. Yeah, on you go.
So I think anybody with any
decency
is absolutely appalled and horrified by these, and anybody who cares about children being safe has to speak out about this and say something is going wrong where we see these patterns replicated up and down the country. And
sorry. Here we go on the thing that while this is bad, something equally as bad could result. Equally as bad of killing, burning the victims in their houses, gang raping them. Let this person probably from the religion that shall not be named tell you what is equally as bad as raping young girls.
I agree with everything that Majid has said. I think my concern in the way we talk about this, and I've done a lot of work on this as a reporter, as a social affairs editor before, is that there are 2 narratives that are both equally dangerous, right?
Did you hear her say that? Mm-hmm. Did you hear her say that?
I heard her.
We hear that the reason that the police and councils failed these vulnerable girls is because they were afraid of being accused of racism. Whether that's true or not, that is no excuse. There is no excuse for public servants not doing their basic job of protecting vulnerable children. The other narrative I've now heard from people who work in child protection is that police and local authorities now have this idea in their head that people who abuse children are Asian men of Muslim backgrounds. And
I am so afraid for these Asian men of Muslim backgrounds. Now, I am equally as afraid for them as I am for girls being abused.
I want to tell y'all something right now. Hypothetical situation. All of a sudden in the United States, white women with long blonde hair started committing atrocious crimes to children. Okay? I mean, it was bad, like really bad. They started raping and pillaging and molesting and killing and murdering, and it was like a white women with long blonde hair all over the country, and it's happening. And oh my gosh, if I have to go through however many checks I have to go through, if my life is turned upside down, so that they can protect the young girls, because I'm innocent, I'm not doing that. If they can protect the young girls or young boys or whoever's being attacked in this atrocious long blonde hair women, whatever, that are attacking these people, I'm willing to do that to protect them. I'm not going to say this is just an inconvenience. I don't want to be racially profiled because people that look like me are committing these crimes. I actually am willing, fine, let's stop it. If you need to look at me, if you need to check me over, all right, I want you to be checking every other long blonde hair white woman that looks like me as well. Let's stop these crimes.
That is obscuring the reality of other children who are being abused. Now, that's equally dangerous, because if you care about children being safe, you want all children to be safe. You don't want prejudice in local authority and police keep putting children at unnecessary risk. The thing I would say about Majid, your figures, which I remember at the time, and it was really important work. When we talk about this being an Asian problem, a Muslim problem. 100%, according to the NCA, of paedophiles, so not people who exploit vulnerability, but people who are just sexually attracted to children, are white.
That's type 2.
Okay.
We don't talk about that as a white problem, and we also don't say that the white community needs to work out what is going wrong here and why there is paedophilia in its ranks, which there clearly is.
No. I don't think we are talking about type 2 paedophilia, which is white men who are attracted to children. What we are talking about is the Asian grooming.
I understand that,
and
but
I think
am raising type 2.
We need very briefly to say this is a class problem, this is a cultural problem, and this is also a language problem.
Religion as well, by the way.
Also religion, because firstly on language, these are paedophiles who are raping children. Okay, let's just accept that. These are not women, these are not girls in relationships with their abusers.
And
this
some
is
of
rape.
The language around child prostitution is very damaging, because there's no such thing. They
mustn't call the girl victims prostitutes. They are rape victims of rape. They are
and they were dismissed in this case.
Culturally, we have to understand why this goes on in this country. But finally, we haven't talked about class, and the reason why the authorities turned a blind eye and threw these girls under a bus or to the wolves was because they were, as it were, in an underclass. They thought these girls are out of education, they've been failed by social services. Honestly, if these were middle-class girls at boarding school, do you honestly think these children would not have been taken in proper care of by the boarding school,
and
by the authorities?
What I find astonishing is that even after all of Rotherham, Rochdale, Oxford, no prosecutions,
there have been prosecutions. There have been
How many?
Been dozens of prosecutions, but not enough. Can we hear why this happens? Why
yes, let's go. And also imagine why, and if just come to the final point of my introduction, decent Muslims like yourself, you're being tarred by the brush, even worse than anyone else. What is to be done, Majid?
Because it's men like me that get stereotyped as being rapists, and that's happening across Europe. But unfortunately, it's happening because across Europe, not just in Britain, there's a disproportionate rate of offending by either Muslim migrants or Muslims born and raised in Europe against white girls. And there are class reasons to it. There are patriarchal reasons to it. Why it happens in Muslim majority nations is largely due to the social conservative attitudes in society and their patriarchal and misogynist attitudes towards women, and also cultural elements kick in. Now, for example, fundamentalist interpretations of Islam believe that as long as you have consent of the father, there's no underage, there's no pre-puberty, there's no limit on marrying a girl. They refer to the Prophet having married a 9 or 11-year-old, depending on the age of reference.
Right.
These attitudes must be challenged and they must be addressed. Finally, to Afla's point, yes, either 87% or 100% of paedophiles in type 2, which is those who prey on young, vulnerable children, are white. Either 87% or 100%, but that's reflective of society. So it's a problem.
100% of society isn't white, Majid.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying it's between that number, because we have two conflicting figures. The problem needs to be addressed, but what it certainly isn't is 2% of the society committing 84% of the crime. That has to be addressed as a category on its own. Now, the police haven't been doing enough, nor have the politicians yet. This week alone, we find a journalist being stopped by counter-terrorism police at our borders under Section 7 of the Terrorism Act 2000, being deprived of the right of silence because she was distributing leaflets that were offensive to Muslims that said Allah is gay. That's not a racist leaflet. Yet we've got this going on in Telford, and I was ashamed at the lack of response and the drag, even in organisations such as the BBC, in reporting this.
Yes.
So that's the end of that.
That was really
that
interesting.
Was so interesting. It was
the one blonde lady with her bangs like this. That's Boris Johnson's sister, by the way.
Oh, that's right. She's like a liberal.
Yeah, she is.
And she sat down with Nigel Farage and that date thing.
Yeah, she did a blind date, even though she's married. A blind date with Nigel. That was really fun.
All right, so let's move on to some other areas of Europe. So this poor 65-year-old Swedish woman is on the trial for the hate crimes describing intensive harassment by police. So she was intensively harassed by the police because of her hate crimes on the social media, and this poor woman here who obviously is going to be speaking in Swedish. So,
is there subtitles? Are there subtitles? I can speak English.
No, but I can just tell you. I just wanted you to get an idea who she was. Okay. So her name is Christiana. She's 65 years old. She faces 8 charges of hate speech for claiming on social media that the mass Muslim migration could lower the general IQ of the country, and said that the police had forced her into 6 separate interrogations and raided her home. Now,
Jim wants to know if that's a Nigerian accent.
No, it's my Swedish accent. Thank you very much. All right, so she has denied the hate speech charges, and she says she had written that immigrants were parasites and that they scream, they stink, they kill, they rape, they burn cars and more. How do I get rid of them? I've had enough. So they seized her belongings. They seized her new iPod. The police said they had a 150-page file on her that began since 2016. She says, I've never done a criminal thing in my life. And she says, added that Sweden is now full of rapists out raping our Swedish girls and the burning cars. Which, here's the thing.
That's really happening.
All of this is really happening. And it's okay to say that the homeless people downtown stink. There is a thing where a lot of these people from different countries, they don't believe in bathing. They don't have the same bathing practices. They don't have the same toiletry practices. And so sometimes even smells can be offensive.
Dude, if I don't take a shower in a couple days, I start to stink.
So nothing that she said, and it is true, and we talked about this with John B. Wells, that people of African, not African descent, mind you, people from Africa and sub-Saharan Africa who have been tested have a lower IQ than Europe or the United States, Asians scoring the highest. Now,
I think also really your environment.
Well, that's what I was going to get to, but go ahead, yeah.
You know, it really, if you're not raised with a culturally enriched or advanced environment, your IQ isn't going to be that high. You're not going to know this. Have you guys taken the IQ test? No, if they're from Africa, they're not going to have an IQ. They need to have an African IQ test.
When you look at, like, I'm going to show you, we're going to go to Hungary in a minute. When you look at the architecture in Hungary, right? These are beautiful architectural masterpieces and beautiful works of art. You don't see that in Africa. However, you do see that from Africans who have come to the knowledge of Jesus Christ,
right?
Been exposed to Western culture,
right?
Come to the United States.
I think it could be equally have said if there was, okay, let's say you have a tribe of a bunch of black people, right? In these African countries, and they just so happen to have a few white kids raised in the exact same environment with their IQ is going to be the exact same. It's not a color of skin thing; it's an environment thing. You know, I used to watch a Shirley Temple movie. Which one is it? Rebecca and Sunnybrook Farm, and the lady says to her, "You know, I think it's really it's just your environment." And Shirley Temple, at the time, her character, she goes, "Well, maybe I should have my environment fixed." A lot of people in the United States need to have their environment fixed. They just have a poor environment.
Right.
It's that simple.
All right, so we're going to Germany here. Now,
yeah,
you have this man, Wolfgang Schäuble. How do you say his name? He is let's see. I'm gonna get this right. Angela Merkel's upset because she's insisting that Islam is part of German culture, contradicting the Interior Minister Horst Seehofer after he stressed the nation's Christian heritage. So this is the translated from German into English, the specific article where he says Okay, so here we have a debate between these two politicians. And he says, Islam does not belong to Germany. And it's not part of Germany and part of Europe. It is part of our present, and it is part of our future.
Okay.
Very interestingly enough, he says Christianity... Wait. Let me just get to this, because sometimes it doesn't translate right? So let me get to the Breitbart article. Islam does not belong to Germany. Germany has been shaped by Christianity. The Christian social Bavarian leader told Bild on Friday, pointing to the church's influence on everyday life and culture. These aspects include shops being closed on Sundays, church holidays, and rituals such as Easter, Pentecost, and Christmas. The Muslims who live with us obviously belong to Germany, adding that this does not mean we give up our country's specific traditions and customs out of false consideration for others. After his proclamation, Merkel moved quickly to assert that Islam does belong to Germany, I guess appearing at a press conference after the talks with Swedish Prime Minister Stefan Löfven on Friday, the CDU leader noted 4 million residents of the country follow Islam, telling reporters these Muslims are also part of Germany. With them, their religion, Islam, is just as much a part of Germany. And a critic of mass migration, Seehofer, who is presiding over an expanded homeland ministry, has clashed with the chancellor on previous occasions. So he says Islam is not part of the nation's cultural history, and that is actually historic fact. Now, get this. A 20-year-old Syrian is charged with plotting a mass casualty terror attack in Germany by German prosecutors with plotting a major radical Islamic attack that could have killed up to 200 people. So we have to look at this as that he did, right? And I'm wondering where Pearson Morgan is at on this one. A man identified as Yaman A. has been brought up on charges of preparing serious state-damaging violence. He said he's 20 years old, had been preparing explosive devices and was looking to perform a mass casualty terror attack on behalf of the Islamic State terror group. He had become radicalized last summer and had determined in July of 2017 that he would perpetrate a terrorist attack in Hamburg. They said he wanted to blow himself up in a crowded area, but were not totally positive on where he was going to do this. These are the guys that you're bringing back in from Syria. And I just don't think it is exactly the best thing to do. Now get this. This is also in Germany. Police uncover Antifa-linked high explosives, chemicals, and mobile bomb factory.
What?
Yeah, so you have this Antifa all over the world now. This is George Soros.
Yes.
Because it's the same symbol. Mm-hmm. They do the same things. They're violent. Antifa just means communist. People who are pro-communism, anti-everything else. And the authorities have uncovered an Antifa-linked horde of chemicals, high explosives, and mobile bomb factory in Thuringia, Germany. There is some suggestion that the haul, which is suspected to be linked to the alt-left extremism. What I love is that these guys are alt-left extremists, but then Brittany Pettibone and Martin Sellner are alt-right. So you would think that they're on the same level, but they're not.
Well, because Brittany Pettibone and Martin Sellner and Lauren Southern are not trying to create bombs.
You don't understand. The elites will tell you that words are more powerful than bombs. Names will always kill. Names kill.
So what says a leftist peace activist was building the bombs? 20 kilograms of explosives.
Wow. He was taking on neo-Nazis. No, they're not taking on neo-Nazis. They are anybody who is not communist. The findings available so far suggest that the spokesman of an alliance honored by the Rimmel government prepared explosive attacks.
It says one of them even got awarded an official peace prize. No joke.
So he's saying we have a lot to do with extreme right-wing violence in this area, but the escalation of left-wing violence since the G20 summit in Hamburg has reached a dangerous level. And I haven't heard of any right-wing violence.
No, I haven't either. So what have you?
I have not. Survey 3/4 of Germans say Islam does not belong to Germany. Asked whether Islam belongs in Germany, 3/4 of Germans polled answered absolutely not and probably not.
You guys aren't going to be able to see that stat because the screen
Probably not.
Out.
And only 6.4.
This is yes completely at 6.4. For the most part, 14.9. I don't know, 4.4. Probably not, 19.7, but not at all, 54.6.
So pretty much everybody says no.
Wow.
And I find that awesome. EU heading for disaster as Italy's populace set to join forces to destabilize Brussels. We have some good news from Italy. Italy's two populist parties can be set to join forces to build a coalition majority in a move viewed by critics as the most destabilizing potential outcome of the election. The worst thing happening to the EU is the best thing happening for us. Yay! The Lega and the Five-Star Movement could rise to power in a shocking change of direction for Italy in protest of years of painful rules from Brussels. Despite the deep ideological differences between the Eurosceptic Party and fellow insurgents, the Five-Star and the Fabrizio Nusca, a vet and local official with Italy's Lega Party, believes an alliance is worth a shot. He said, there are similarities in our platforms. We share some things. If we find a few common issues to work on, it is feasible. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool to hear that they're gonna make it work, which goes to show you that Italy.
It didn't matter which way that Italian election went. It spelled bad news for the EU.
Right.
The Italians are fed up. They are absolutely fed up.
We no longer just nod along. EU leaders' stinging rebuke of Macron and Merkel, Mommy Merkel and Baby Macron. Forming their little alliance. Angela Merkel and Emmanuel Macron have been put in their place by their fellow EU member states after the pair announced they would unveil an EU reform roadmap, which one reminding the Franco-German alliance the rest of the EU are not simply there to rubber stamp their ideas. Angela Merkel and Emmanuel Macron have pledged to unveil the EU's roadmap to reforms by June, following their meeting in Paris yesterday. So here's your two dudes, and I got to tell you, Macron is a puppet. He ain't got two things to rub together in his brain. Okay, he is a puppet. He's been used as a puppet. He married his mom. Okay, his teacher who is as old as his mom, who just it's a nasty thing. The German leader and the French prostitute president met to reaffirm the Franco-German leadership at the heart of the EU. After prolonged coalition talks in Germany were only completed recently, everybody else is just a minion in the EU. Mark Rutte, the Dutch Prime Minister, delivered a sharp rebuke to the assumed obedience. He said, of course, the German government can meet the French government without us being there, but that doesn't mean that we and other EU countries are going to agree with everything the Germans and the French agree on. A German broadcaster said the EU states were not happy at being reduced to rubber stamps. In Belgium, taxpayer-funded theater company is actually seeking real Islamic State jihadis to act in a play.
No.
What could possibly go wrong? This production could be explosive.
Wow.
The Culturos Intelligent are looking for real ISIS fighters as actors, as the city theater in Ghent is working on a new production.
I think maybe they think that might help them catch a crowd.
The performance will be
about
the famous Lamb of God painting, but for this performance, they are looking for real ISIS jihadis, as it turns out today. The painting of Van Eyck brothers depicts Knights of Christ, and in our modern super diverse society, the concept of crusader must, of course, be pulled open. People who killed their brother or sister, apple and snake lovers, exhibitionists, blacks, and real ISIS fighters. For all these people, they placed an advertisement in the newspaper. The famous painting of the Van Eyck brothers' Lamb of God and Adam and Eve are depicted next to the Lamb himself, Cain and Abel. And so here we go.
So I'm really curious. Do you think that it's possible that they're wanting authenticity, or if they are afraid that if they get actors to act in these, then they might be like ridiculed or, I don't know, hauled off to jail or something?
I don't know. That's a really good question. So that's a really good question. I don't know.
Chris Wolf Links says Belgium, another gone to the Twilight Zone country. Many no-go zones there too.
Back to Sweden for a second. Nearly half of residents in Sweden no-go zones feel unsafe to go outdoors after dark, which would be terribly terrifying to all of a sudden here you are in your own little safe Swedish fairy tale land, and you're afraid to go outside, and there are no-go zones. They burn the cars, man. I don't know what it is about the burning the cars, but they burn the cars. And in France, illegal immigrants run free hugs scam to steal victims' phones, which I find actually hilarious, but not. A Muslim YouTuber said he was inspired to make the video after being very upset by hate crime and hate comments, so he went around and he started giving free hugs. He's a Muslim guy. So these gangs went around doing the free hugs and taking people's phones in France. Yeah, so reports of cell phone thefts in the city on Saturday and Sunday repeatedly described the same process, beginning with the victims being offered free hugs while walking along George's Clemenceau. During the embrace, the street criminals take the opportunity to slip a hand in the victim's pocket and steal their mobile phone. The victim usually only becomes aware of the deception once it's too late. So 8 people have been arrested. And a woman moves from dangerous Sweden to safe Hungary, and many follow her. In an interview with the Hungarian news channel M1, a woman says she left Sweden after 40 years because of increasing migrant crime. The woman now lives in Hungary, according to her. There is no safety at all in Sweden, and things have gone from bad to worse.
Nemrég költözött vissza Magyarországra. Mennyi idő után
pontosabban
Svédországban született, de hosszú idő után úgy döntött, hogy Magyarországra.
Mennyi idő telt? How much time passed? 40 years. Why?
És miért?
Because of circumstances, things happening in Sweden. There's no safety at all. With all those migrants they let into the country, unfortunately the situation got worse. Now it is in an unfortunate state. For example, you can't travel during the daytime in the metro in Stockholm. I gotta pause because I'm like, are we related? I'm like looking at her mouth. It's really funny.
You think she looks like us?
Yeah, when she talks, it allows your mouth.
Because she's Swedish?
Yeah. And nobody helps. The police do not come out. She looks like Uncle Steve. You might sit in a coffee house, 5 or 6 migrants run in, about 15 or 16 years old. Young boys threaten you with a knife. And take your mobile phone in your bag.
Maya said, free hugs and you get a free phone.
And she says it's hard to work. It's becoming a problem. There's no longer as much potential as there was before. A lot of Swedes do not get jobs because they're given to migrants. I had a hard time finding a job in a hospital last year in Stockholm to be a student to become a medical doctor. Finally, I was lucky and I got an opportunity, but 80% of my colleagues are migrants and Muslims. From the doctor to the nurse, everyone. Is this Stockholm? It's a very famous university hospital. 80% are Muslim. Why? In medical, Swedish doctors can't get a job in Sweden. They have to go to Norway. A lot of Swedish nurses who work in the hospital leave their jobs because they get sexually molested, even in the workplace. So they leave their job. These are confirmed cases? Yes, they are. That is what is so sad and outrageous in Sweden. That is the reason I'm sitting here today, because these facts are not allowed to come out, but kept quiet. These facts are only known there locally, on the television or in the newspapers, but not reaching anyone outside. What do you mean, kept quiet? It's not coming out so that other countries like yours, the Hungarians, would be able to see what is happening daily in Sweden. This information never gets out. And they restrict what can come out and what cannot. When something happens every day in Stockholm, more than 50% of the cases are not even mentioned in the news. Not printed in the newspapers, and this is a fact. So I probably should just let you watch this whole thing because it's a pretty important interview that she's giving. And she's in Hungary, so she's not going to be arrested. Wow. But it's quite possible that if she was in Sweden giving the same interview, she might have been arrested. Now,
so I want to get to something. Tracy, Sean and Tracy of our channel here, sent me a message on Facebook. She says, I know you won't get this until after your show, but I did get it in the middle. She says, but I wanted to share an experience that I had with you. In 1988-89, I was traveling backwards and forward to Birmingham. Before I eventually moved there, one day I was going into the city center for a night out with a girlfriend. We were staying in a tower block of flats with another friend, and so called our taxi and agreed to meet it downstairs. When we were down waiting, an Adrian man, she might have meant to say Asian, pulled up and asked if we were waiting for a taxi. I said yes. He said, yes, I'm your taxi. Thankfully, my friend was a little more city savvy and asked what company he was from and who we were. We had given our names. She then told him to leave, but with a beautifully colorful language. I was 18, but I would have easily gotten into that taxi, and I dread to think what might have happened. I can see how easy it would be to lure young girls into cars, and I'm grateful my friend had more sense than me. But getting back on track, these rape gangs have been around for a long time.
Wow.
Thank you for that, Tracy. I asked her specifically if I could read that to you guys.
Wow. Well, I want to get to something positive. We're going to end on something positive. Hungary had this...
She said, yes, Asian man. It was predictive text.
Hungary had a march. I don't have this in English.
March!
And, but I think I might have...
Look at it!
I have some of his speech in English.
It's huge.
Well, they built the bridges right. It ain't breaking like our ones in Florida here.
Look at that. Look at it. Look. Those are you. I don't know if you guys can see that. Thousands and thousands of people.
Hundreds of thousands of people. I'm going to get to his speech in a minute, but I wanted you to see the video that they made here.
The scope of it.
And I wanted you to see the architecture. We're talking about just totally different foundation, right?
Right.
But I also want to point out that Hungary and Poland and a lot of these Eastern European countries that were overtaken by communism, the Czech Republic, they would be. I was reading that. You can't understand what I'm saying.
Somebody might.
I was reading that the UK has a minimum wage 9 times higher than in the Ukraine or something like that. So I'm going to mix up some Eastern European country, okay? Or even Hungary. It might even, I don't know. But why is that? Because the UK was never overtaken, right? They're pretty happy people.
They are awesome people. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. All right, so let me get to... All right, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban issued a stark warning to the peoples of Europe on his country's National Day, telling them that Europe is now under invasion.
This was on the 15th, by the way.
And that the empire of George Soros is seeking to break Hungary for standing in its way. The situation, dear friends, and here's what he was saying, is that there are those who want to take our country from us. Not with a stroke of the pen that has happened 100 years ago at Tryon. Now they want us to voluntarily hand our country over to others over a period of a few decades. And here's some pictures. I mean, look at that architecture, by the way. That is what is stunning to me. That is some of the most beautiful architecture on the face of the planet ever built. It is beauty to the eyes. We have the ability to do that kind of architecture here, but we don't, because we had the same communism type mindset in our industrial revolution coming over in the 20s and 30s and 40s, creating these stark, dark places like you see in communist Russia.
Right.
Just not beautiful at all. Hungary belongs to Hungarians. They want us to hand it over to foreigners coming from other continents who do not speak our language, who do not respect our culture, our laws, or our way of life. People who want to replace what is ours with theirs. They want what they want is that henceforward it will increasingly not be we and our descendants who live here, but others. There is no exaggeration in what I have just said. Day by day, we see the great European countries and nations losing their countries little by little from district to district and from city to city. I do want to give you hope because I haven't seen come out of the UK, and correct me if I'm wrong, strong Christian-rooted political activism.
Right.
But what we have seen in our great friends at IzPod Prod TV in Poland is that if all of Europe falls, they will stand. And their Christianity will stand. And I believe that it's these great, awesome, wonderful bastions of freedom that are rooted in the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Right.
That will help save Europe once again, like Poland helped save Europe at one point.
St. Mark the Evangelist here says, Hungary is what European countries should be like. I totally
because
agree.
Hungary still has, whether they follow the gospel of Jesus Christ personally all the time and read the Bible is different. They still have a country who believes in the gospel of Jesus Christ. And same with Poland.
Correct.
They at least say it at the top levels. And that is what's really important. External forces and internal powers want to force us all this upon us with the help of our allies here in our country. And they see our upcoming election as a good opportunity for this. Orban characterized the present ideological clash as one between ordinary people, patriots, and those who support nation-state democracy on the other hand. National and globalist forces have never squared up to each other so openly. We, the millions with national feelings, are on one side. The elite citizens of the world are on the other side.
Wow.
And that's globally, and we're on their side. It's so powerful. We believe in nation states, the defense of borders, the family, and the value of work are on one side, and opposing us are those who want an open society, a world without borders, our nations. Remember, George Soros is Hungarian, and he sold out his fellow Jews. He is a Judas of the worst sort. New forms of family, devalued work, and cheap workers, all ruled by an army of shadowy and unaccountable
ruled over by an
bureaucrats.
Army. Here's the thing: I know that sometimes when we read these things, it's hard to take it all in. But essentially, what he's saying is, we want to continue to live the way we have lived for thousands of years as human beings, and what the European Union and the globalists and the global elite, as Orban called them, which I love that, they want to devalue the human being down to a worker. I mean, I'm reminded of all these science fiction movies where people wear gray and you've got these families that are put together, right. And new forms of family. We're talking about the LGBT community, things like that, where it's not actually a family, where you could have two males raising a bunch of kids. I don't know.
By the way, that's communism. In communist Russia, wherever communism spread, they literally put the kids to one side.
This is not a happy thing. I mean, right. We read Glenn Beck's Agenda 21, which I don't really recommend anyone reading, but it's kind of like Orwell's 1984. But seriously, that is what they want. When I read that stuff, it turns my stomach and it makes me afraid. Like, oh my gosh, I never want to live that way. When these corrupt people read that, they go, yeah, that's what we need. You want to know why? Because they envision themselves at the top.
Right.
Controlling the workers.
Right.
And that's my mom posted something. Patriot Gallery posts on our Resistance Chicks page on Facebook. And on Twitter and stuff like that.
And Soros, the scum of the earth.
But she posted something because Alex Jones had an interview with a guy, and they're talking about all this technocracy stuff, and all of this technological stuff. And I have to tell you guys, the engine that is the world, that it requires the globalists to exist. So we may get to the place where freedom reigns and we have all this beautiful stuff that Viktor Orban is talking about and that Poland is fighting for, and you may not have cars. You may not be able to talk to people over the internet. You may not have all of these things anymore, but you'll have freedom. But when you have these people that are touting, anti-globalist stuff, and yet they still want to have all of this technology, you don't understand. It's the same machine. Now, there may be a way, and hopefully that it can coexist, but I have to tell you, it would be a very tricky thing.
Let me give you an example. In Sweden, I don't know if I played it for you guys, but there's this awesome little homesteader dude in a Swedish homesteading. He's at the Swedish Homesteader channel. And he and a handful of other homesteaders are fighting being pushed off their homesteading land because cobalt is known to be under their land, and cobalt is needed for iPhones.
Right. You know what else is needed for iPhones? Chinese slave workers. All of the computers that you have, every piece of technology that you see and that you have requires workers in this machine of globalism. Everybody has to be devalued and dehumanized in order for it to exist. You guys have to understand
If we have
that.
a product, right? And literally, there are computer builders out there.
Right.
In America. I would rather have somebody who just does it on their own time, on their own dime. But
you can't do it in mass and it'll be expensive.
I don't want anything where somebody literally sits, they in China.
Every day.
They go and they do one part. And it's just dehumanizing. But I don't want to talk about that too much more.
I just mean... These people are talking about unselfish living, populist, giving, caring, self-sacrificing. The other is a very selfish, money-hungry, power-hungry, and lavish living hungry society that we actually all partake.
Hungry with an R-Y, not an A-R-Y. But anyways, I didn't mean I don't want to talk about that. I mean, I wanted to get some positive
I know we have so much stuff to cover. You're right. I'm with you.
Just 2 more videos and then we're going to wrap things up.
So
here's more Victor Orban's speech. Day after day, we see great Western civilizations losing their country city by city. Those who do not stop the waves of migrants at their borders will be lost. Brussels won't protect Europe. And they want to support and organize migration instead of stopping it. They want to seize our country, not by the stroke of a pen, Sydney, as they did a century ago in Tryon. Now they expect us to willingly hand it over within a few decades to foreigners coming from other countries. Other continents, who don't speak our language and respect our culture or our ways of life. They want people other than us or our descendants to live here from now on. Europe is under invasion. If we do nothing, the next 1 or 2 decades, tens of millions will set out for Europe from Africa and the Middle East. This is our homeland, our life, and since we don't have another one, we will fight to the very end, and we will never give it up. All right, one more video here. Here we go. Such forces as now reveal themselves, have not been seen in the world for a long time. Africa will have 10 times more young people than Europe. If Europe does nothing, they will kick down the doors and Brussels will not protect Europe. And they do not want to stop the migration, but rather to support it and organize it. They want to dilute and replace the people of Europe. They, Brussels, throw them our way of life, our culture, and everything what separates us and differentiates us Europeans from other nations of the world. It is a meager consolation that the European nations will not forgive those leaders who, without asking the people, totally changed Europe. Let us be proud that we were the only country in the entire Union that asked the people if they wanted mass migration. And I thought Poland did too. Top Polish politician, European Union in greatest crisis ever. And I guess some of the Polish people showed up at this march as well. I wanted to
that's awesome.
Put that. So I am done. I have given you all the news that I have for you today. Did not have a chance to practice any awesome songs for you. But doesn't mean we can't sing something.
Really?
And Mom said. Now I'm not gonna bring out the guitar for this. I don't know if I know all this song, but it was coming to me, and No, I only know the chorus.
Yeah,
so never mind.
Me too. Great is thy faithfulness.
It was just kept coming to me. Great is thy faithfulness over and over and over again was coming to me. Yeah. So maybe take some comments.
Let's see. So what says it is an invasion? Donna Terry, they were asking where she was today. She sent me an email saying she's not able to comment. I think she's using a new iPad. Let's see.
Okay.
All these open borders.
Everybody keeps sending me
the downfall. It says the mutated airborne viruses, etc. Could be.
Everybody keeps sending me that as soon as you update your YouTube app on your phone, you can't comment in the chat.
Oh yeah. Patriot Gallery, did you have something you wanted to add to round off?
Well, around 2 o'clock, you were talking about the power of God. I've heard people talk about the power of God. So how am I supposed to have the power of God? We have the power of God to preach the gospel. The gospel is the power of God. So you get away in nature or by yourself, separate yourself from everybody else.
Yes.
And just meditate on the God loves me. He sent Jesus to die on the cross, set me free from sin. You got to meditate on God loving you. And next thing you know, you'll have the power of God.
Right.
You got to meditate on it. In that meditation, you're praying, even though you don't know it. But the gospel is the power of God. And that's why we have the power of God to preach the gospel. And so, but you got to meditate. But you got to get away in quiet and peace. You hear God, and next thing you know, wow, that's the power of God.
I was actually...
Meditate on love. God loves me.
In the middle of a city
He sent Jesus to die to forgive my sins. And meditate on that. It might take you days, weeks, months.
Right.
But it'll heal your mind also. Heal your body. It's the love of God, the power of God. Next thing you know, you're loving God. The first commandment is to love God. And Jesus said, you've done everything you've done if you just meditate and love God. But it takes power to love God.
It's the first and most important of all the commandments. And as a matter of fact, I was doing that on the way home right before we went live here in the car. Just doing that exact same thing. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Leah and I take what we do with you guys very, very seriously. And so before we ever go live, this is what I'm talking about with always be sure you're right and then go ahead. You can't just say stuff. You can't just throw, the Bible says we'll be judged by every idle word spoken. You can't just put things out into the, atmosphere or whatever and just be like, well, I said it, okay, fine, whatever. If I'm going to speak to the masses, to you guys, I'm going to take it really seriously. And so I make sure that my life, my walk with Christ, I'm not perfect, but I sure as heck try to make sure that I walk a really straight and narrow line, because I don't ever want to lead anybody astray, because the Bible says that when you're a teacher or when you're in a position where you can speak to other people, you will be held to a higher accountability. So when you throw things out there, whatever word you're saying, whatever you're speaking, even if it's in the chat, you have to make sure that God is leading you when you say it, or you could be judged by an idle word. So what the thought police are trying to do is what we all should be doing internally, and they're trying to make it legal. So they're saying you're committing a hate crime, or this is hate speech, and you've hurt somebody. You know what? It's an actual thing. I want to actually recognize that for one moment. If you say something that hurts somebody else, before God, it is a crime. And you should be far more afraid of being judged by God for saying that idle word or that thing that hurts somebody else than the government. And it becomes fascism when the government starts censoring you, but you should already be pre-censoring yourself and only trying to speak words that God would have you to be speaking. Before we sing this song, I think, because I know we lose some of our viewers when we go to do our song. So I want to go ahead and do the ending now. I want to thank our moderators who were here today. Kelly, Gary, Maya was here, Worth a Look, Britt Baza, who went to the speech at Speaker's Corner with Tommy today. I hope I'm not missing, I know I'm missing a couple of other people. Sooks was here. Did I say Kelly? Anyway, I want to thank all of you guys for being here. And those of you that have left comments in the chat, please leave them on the video afterwards, because there are excellent comments here and not everybody gets to see them. But actually, the chat does replay itself. But still, I don't think everybody they probably close that out if they don't want to watch it. So still go ahead and leave your comments in the video afterwards. We go live every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And every Sunday, like we did today, at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That will be an hour earlier than what you are used to if you're overseas, until the 25th, when everybody else catches up to daylight savings. So I think that rounds off what I've got. Chris says, words are like bullets. Once you say them, you cannot take them back. The harm is already done. Be mindful of what you say, his granddaddy said. right. So that is going to wrap us up for the. We're kind of cockeyed, aren't we? I've tried to put that camera. Oh no, we're not wrapped up. You got another one? Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, we got another one for you. Bet you darn tootin' we do. I'm trading my sorrows. Darn it. Always with the high ones. She always picks the high ones. I'm trading my sorrows. I'm trading my shame. I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. I'm trading my sickness. I'm trading my pain, and I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. And we say, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. Yes. I'm pressed but not crushed, persecuted, not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. I'm blessed beyond the curse, for His promise will endure. His joy is gonna be my strength. His joy is gonna be my strength. And I'm trading my sorrows, and I'm trading my shame, and I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. And I'm trading my sickness, and I'm trading my pain, and I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. And we say, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. I'm pressed but not crushed, persecuted, not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. I'm blessed beyond the curse, for His promise will endure. His joy is gonna be my strength. His joy is gonna be my strength. And we say, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. One more time. And we say, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. And I'm trading my sorrows, I'm trading my shame, and I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. Now here's what you do. You go to the speaker's corner and you just sing and praise to God. Tell people this is the way we overcome, right? Can they call it singer's corner then? Maybe. And I'm trading my sickness, because you know our God, He's the only one that heals. I ain't gonna heal you, but God can heal. He can heal your relationships. He can heal your mind. He can heal your body. He can heal pain from your past. Allah can't do that. No, baby. And I'm trading my sorrows, and I'm trading my shame, and I'm laying them down for the joy of the Lord. And I'm trading my sickness, I'm trading my pain, I'm laying them Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. One more time. I'm pressed but not crushed, persecuted, not abandoned, shut down but not destroyed. I'm blessed beyond the curse, for His promise will endure. His joy's gonna be my strength. Joy's gonna be my strength. And we say yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. And we sing yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord, amen. Amen. Oh, no thanks. All right, hot dog. Thank you guys for being with us for what we like to refer to as Sunday church, regardless of what other people may think, whether this is church or not. I got to tell you, church is just a fellowship of believers. That's all it is. You are gathering with us. We consider you guys family, and I want to thank you for being part of it.
Yes.
So we're going to sign off here, and we will see you back. You never know when. I mean, besides Friday and Sundays. Probably Wednesday. Last week we went live on Tuesday. Patriot Gallery's birthday is on Friday, so we won't be doing that. Oh.
What?
Well, we probably won't be
Yeah, we
live
will.
Wednesday and Thursday. Oh. Because there may be a pig butchering happening.
Yeah.
Here at
So
Godzilla Laker.
maybe Monday, Tuesday.
Maybe Monday, Tuesday, not Wednesday, Thursday. Because we're making room for new piglets, you know. We got babies coming. We got to get out with the big and with the small.
We're going to exercise our Second Amendment rights.
Shh. No. All right, we're really going to go.
Keeping the Muslims at bay.
That's what it is.
Stop it.
Don't
I'm
say
just
it's
kidding.
the religion that shall not be named that doesn't do pork or puppies. How about that? Everybody would know what I was talking
It's
about.
okay.
then.
Listen, we make a joke about it. We got Jewish friends that come over. They play with our pigs. It's cool, right?
Right. Okay. All right. Here we go. God loves you. We love you. See you later. Hasta mañana.
See you later,
Maybe
alligator.
not tomorrow.
City's not just for you.
No, I gave you.
I was cold all alone.